What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday.
Yeah.
Going on a little bit later than usual, but
Yeah.
that's because we were kind of running a little bit late. And also, we watched A Haunting earlier today.
Yeah.
So we don't have to watch it after the show. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And
That's how
Pookie
that
was
works.
up here a minute ago.
You missed it.
Y'all missed Pookie. She was fucking tearing up paper and throwing a fit and trying to climb up on people's laps. And according to Jenny, she was fucking tightrope walking across all this stuff.
Trying to, like, fuck around on top of the desk.
She's acting a fool.
She is, yeah. She heard something and she thought Beijing was upstairs,
Yeah.
so she had to go investigate.
She's like, yeah, I can't let her up here. It's my territory. Okay, so the other day, I think we mentioned it on the main show. We were talking about I had never seen Wonder Woman. She'd never seen it either.
Yeah.
So we went back and watched it. They got all the DC stuff for free on, what was it, HBO?
HBO Max, yeah.
HBO Max. They pretty much got all the old stuff. And most of that shit I hadn't seen. Some of it I have. Some of it I saw in the theater. But a lot of it I haven't seen. So I didn't see either one of the Wonder Woman movies. So we saw the first one. Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. The thing that always amazed me about Wonder Woman is that it's a lesbian bondage boy fantasy out of the damn 1950s.
Well, that's what the comics sure started out as, that's for sure.
Yeah, about this lesbian chick from the Isle of Lesbos wearing next to nothing, and she had ropes, and she would tie you up. She'd tie up other girls. It was a bondage queen.
So dirty.
Yeah, it was a bondage queen in the form of a comic book. And the guys who drew it made up said that, yeah, that's what it was. They were looking at Betty Page fucking photo shoots. In the 50s, porn was kind of, in the United States, it wasn't legal to produce. They had clubs, guys that were like secretly hiring models, and they would trade photographs and shit. But if you were a comic book person, you could just draw it. As long as it was not totally obvious what you were doing, you could get away with it.
Yeah, she's like, what? It's the lasso of truth, okay? It's not bondage. Shut up.
So it was bondage, though. And the guys that made it said it was. So it's just kind of funny, I've seen some of the old drawings, and it's definitely bondage. Definitely.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And Wonder Woman tying up other girls and stuff, villains and shit that were female. And by looking at, and it was kind of, it was 50s when they were drawing it, but a lot of the stuff kind of looked real Varga girl type artwork and pin-up positions.
Well, Wonder Woman started in the 40s.
Oh, did it?
Yeah,
okay, I thought it was 50s.
Okay.
Okay.
No, 40s. It
All right.
first came out.
But evidently, man, I'm looking at this shit, and I'm saying, yeah, those boys back then were probably jerking it to that.
Oh, I imagine.
Yeah. And Mom didn't even get it.
I said, it wasn't even like they could take porn magazines away. It's like, what, Mom? It's just a comic book.
Yeah.
It's about a superhero.
Yeah. So that's kind of the cool backstory of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's kinky.
Yeah.
A lot of the fucking superhero shit was kinky.
Well, yeah. Well, it's all like, fantasies. It's,
Yeah.
For generally aimed toward like younger audiences, or at least they were back in the old days.
Yeah.
That's who they thought was reading them.
Some of that shit was kind of taken the wrong way, though. You have like adult superheroes, and they always have a little kid with them.
Yeah, I always thought that was a little weird.
Yeah, they made them stop that.
Because it's creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, even back then it was probably creepy.
Uh,
Although maybe people didn't know what was going on back then, so it's like it didn't seem as creepy, but it's totally
Well,
creepy.
the guys, they didn't start off that way. They didn't start off with little boy sidekicks. What happened was that the old fans kind of drifted away, and they had to attract new fans who were younger. And then the marketing departments realized, well, if you put a little kid in the story, they'll buy the comic book.
Which makes sense. There's nothing nefarious about that.
Right.
They're just like, oh, well, we want a character of the same age as the target audience so that they can relate to.
Yeah, and they would go like, these little kids are reading the comic books, and their fantasy is to be like fucking Batman's friend. That they're hanging out with Batman.
Right.
That Batman needs them.
Right.
And shit, And so that's where Robin came from. And they had every one of those for a while. Pretty much all the superheroes had some little
kid sidekick.
sidekick. Even Godzilla got one, or Gojira. He had a kitty. Well, they all had kitties, didn't they? Gojira had a kitty.
Gamera
had a kitty. A kitty is a little 6 or 7 year old Japanese boy with short shorts on. He's going, get him, Gamera! That's all. Yeah. And he tells the adults what to do.
Right.
Without him, the monster never would have been defeated. That kind of shit. It was that same mentality. But the old school shit, though, it was sexual. A lot of it was definitely Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and well, you know, I kind of feel like when I was reading, because they've been trying to, I don't know how fucking sad this is, but they've been trying to get like a live action Wonder Woman movie off the ground since like 1996. They had all these different iterations of the script, they had all these different directors attached, and they just couldn't, like, and look at, we've got multiple Batman movies, we've got multiple Superman movies, we got all this stuff. You can't even get one goddamn Wonder Woman movie made, which is like stupid. But yeah, so it took that long from 1996 to 2017 when this came out. But Wonder Woman, well, she was in, okay, so I haven't seen this one either, but prior to, like, her first appearance, and Gal Gadot played her in this movie too, was Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, which came out in 2016. So that was where they introduced the character, but it wasn't, she was just like a side character, you know what I mean? Like, because that was Batman vs. Superman, which a lot of people didn't love that. So there was like all of this brouhaha like leading up to when the Wonder Woman movie came out, and they weren't really sure how it was going to come out. They did actually use a lot of the 1940s comic stories to kind of inform the story for this one, which I thought was a good idea. Also some of the 80s stuff, and I think they used some of the more modern stuff where like the Greek mythology, like of her heritage, because I don't know if originally she was like a daughter of Zeus. Spoiler alert.
I don't think she was.
That's what I mean. But in the more modern like reboot, that's, you know, Zeus is like her dad.
The thing that got me is that they changed where she was from. They renamed the island. If I remember in the original story, she was an Amazon, and she was from the Isle of Lesbos.
Yeah.
And there was nothing but women. She was a lesbian bondage queen, which, of course, only some kinky motherfuckers are going to come up with that. And the normies of the time, I don't think they got it. I don't think they understood
Probably
it.
not.
No.
Well, we were discussing that because in this movie, like the island, because this is like Wonder Woman's origin story, obviously. The island that she comes from is called Themyscira. Mm-hmm. And it's like a magical island where it's like, it's not magical, but it's like shielded. Like you can't really see it. So it's like super secret.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not super versed in the lore like of Wonder Woman, but I had always thought that too, that she was from Lesbos. And Tom's like, oh, I wonder why they pulled back on that. I said, well, one, Lesbos is a real place.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe they didn't really want to make it a real place. Yeah. And two, if you made it Lesbos, it would be like, you know, it'd be like this big thing. And it's like they probably didn't want to wade into that quagmire. Yeah. So I kind of feel like that was probably what. And then, so, well, the implication was this is an island. They're all women. They don't, you know, they're all
they don't
warriors.
Allow men.
They don't, you know, they don't really have time. They don't hate men. They don't seem like, but they just don't have time for it. They're just like, whatever. We don't need that shit. So they're just kind of like that. You know,
they did hint in the movie that they had all this damn erotic literature that she read. Yeah. She read all 18 books of them.
Yeah, all the volumes.
Yeah, all the volumes, and that they discussed men, and in the end they realized they were unnecessary.
Right.
So no, they're lesbians, man.
I mean, obviously, like I said, there's no men on the.
And that was the cool part of the original story.
Right.
Man. So I wouldn't have fucked with it, but I understand that they wanted kids to see this, and they didn't want. I guess you know what I mean. They'd be asking mom and dad too much about that. They might have got you know what I mean. They got a lot of fucking blowback. Why'd you insert that? Well, no, that was the original story.
Yeah, one, I think people would have whined. And two, like I said, I think they wanted to make it more fantastical. And Lesbos is a real place, in case you didn't know. It's a real island.
Yeah, but it wasn't the island that they were talking about in the comic books.
No, I know they weren't, but I was like, but it is a real place.
Basically, if I remember correctly, Lesbos was almost kind of like Mount Olympus. It was kind of like in a little bit of another dimension. Because it wasn't in the modern era.
Yeah.
The one that Wonder Woman came from.
Right.
Her version was kind of like Olympus. It didn't exist in the... It existed, but it's in a parallel universe, I think.
Yeah, Oracle said Paradise Island was the original island name. That's what it was from the comics.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, and
I also remembered as Lesbos.
Also, she said she wasn't the daughter of Zeus originally. That's what I thought, because I think that was like more modern, like the more modern reboot. They actually added to her mythology and made her like a daughter of Zeus.
Okay. Well,
so they put that in this movie too.
Come on, man! Fucking a lesbian island is Paradise Island. Come on, what are you talking about?
True that.
That is Paradise Island. But I remembered it being Lesbos. But maybe they only in certain stories is it Lesbos.
Yeah. Or maybe that was just
rebooted a lot of times. Maybe that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's just what you wanted it to be. No, I'm just kidding.
Pretty sure
I'm just kidding.
that's what they were talking about. She was an Amazon too.
Yeah.
In Greek mythology, I believe the Amazons were from Lesbos, or at least some of them were. No, they got killed off in some big battle, mythological battle where they were fighting all the griffins and shit. Griffins and manticores and stuff.
Oracle says Linda Carter is perfectly happy to have played a gay icon, by the way. Yeah. I mean, and really, like I said, that was like the last great like Wonder Woman thing, I think, was like the TV show, right? Which I actually quite liked when I was a kid.
Yeah, she was smoking hot.
She was, yeah.
Even as a little boy, I was like, God, that woman's fucking gorgeous.
She was.
I was born heterosexual, man. I was into TNA, tits and ass by the time I was fucking 5. Far back as I can remember, I was going, I want to get that.
Oh, pretty lady.
Yeah, I want to get that. But Gal Gadot does a good job in this. She's in real good shape. The slow motion fucking action shots of her fucking spinning around, kicking people and shit look fantastic. Because she can move really fast. She can catch bullets and deflect them and stuff. And she's in great shape, you know. She's not natural. She's enhanced. I think she's doing a lot of nandrolone, probably NPP. But she worked out. She's just, her legs are fucking great.
She did, yeah. They said, on Wikipedia,
great.
They said she gained 17 pounds of muscle for this role.
Yeah, she's on gear. Yep.
So she wanted this role really bad. Well, and the thing about it, and I kind of remember the fracas about all of this, was that I think it started when she got cast in Batman vs. Superman as Wonder Woman. And everybody, for some reason, like everybody was like, nah. Like, we don't see it, or they were pissing and moaning about one thing or another about how she shouldn't do it. Now, it's like, I don't think she was super famous at the time. I think she'd been in some of the Fast and the Furious movies, which I have not seen. But I think that's where people knew her from, and they're like, there's no way. Like, she can't be Wonder Woman or anything like that. And it's like, they screen tested, like, a bajillion different women, obviously, because they were looking for, like, the perfect Wonder Woman. And interestingly, like, she came in, and they said, like, the producers and stuff like that said immediately they just knew that was Wonder Woman. Yeah. And I have to say that as much as, like, people pissed and moaned about her being cast beforehand, I think she just, like, fucking smoked all the fucking haters. She really killed it in this role. She really captured, like, the essence of that character.
I thought so.
And it's the thing that they liked about her, they said, was because she just embodied this fierceness, but also kindness and compassion. And they said that's exactly what we wanted, because that's what Wonder Woman's character is like. Yeah. And the director, Patty Jenkins, she has gone on record as saying that her biggest inspiration for making this movie was Richard Donner's Superman. Yeah. Because she's like, here's the thing, like, all of the, and I've seen, like, a lot of other critics, like, talk about this, because I feel like a lot of the Marvel movies, and even, like, the DC movies that, you know, predated this one, they're like, you know, everybody was going for, like, you know, gritty reboots, and, like, everybody was all tortured and tormented and dark and all this other kind of shit. Including Superman, right. Yeah. And so I think the reason that people responded so well to this movie was because it was really refreshing to see a character that was just pure-hearted and good, like Superman was in the Richard Donner movies. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying this isn't a dark movie. It's set during World War I, for Christ's sake. But just like the way...
Which surprised me, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I actually really like that they did that. So this is like a period piece. I mean, the first third of it is, you know, her growing up on the island. Yeah. And then, you know, then she gets, like, kind of catapulted into World War I era London, because she goes there with Chris Pine's character, because she's going to stop World War I, because she thinks Ares, the god of war, has started it. And then, you know, toward the end, like in the third act, it goes more like a traditional, like, superhero kind of movie with, like, a lot of CGI and stuff. But I don't know. I just think I'm not a big, huge fan of superhero movies. Like I said, oh, thank you very much, Aaron E. On a 10-mile bike ride, need you to keep me going.
All right, go ahead. We got you.
How long is that going to take? Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so it kind of has something for everybody. It's kind of like, I was watching this other review, and they said it almost kind of goes like from a sword and sandal kind of epic, like at the beginning, because you're, you know, seeing her grow up and like seeing all the other warriors on the island and everything. And then it becomes kind of like a war movie with sort of like a romance kind of angle, and then it becomes kind of like more a traditional superhero movie at the end. Yeah. But it all kind of like goes together really well.
It's got the guy that played Captain Kirk.
Yeah, Chris Pine.
Yeah, he's in it. He does a good job. He plays a an American spy who was he had infiltrated the Germans, and he shows up in the beginning of the movie. He escapes in one of their little Fokker monoplanes. He gets shot down and hits the drink, and the young Wonder Woman sees him go into the water. She goes up there and saves him, and she's like, "You a man?" She didn't know what a man was. And it was just funny. There's a lot of good fucking like romance, kind of like sexual, I don't know, kind of romantic situations where she sees him nude for the first time. She says, "What's that?" You know what that is. Just fucking funny.
But then it turned out she was talking about his watch.
Yeah. And then he's like, just all kinds of funny shit happens. You know what I mean? Like they're on a little boat going somewhere, getting the hell off the island, and she's trying to come sleep next to him, and he's getting uncomfortable about it. She's like, "What are you uncomfortable for?" You know, just come sleep over here. You know, like just funny. You know, because he's he's a man of the early 1900s. He's kind of uptight and shit. You know, and she's not having it.
Well, and she doesn't really know she doesn't know what the big deal is because she's grown up on an island with all women, and she doesn't really get, like, intellectually she knows because she's read about stuff, but it's like she's never been out in the world, she's never met an actual man or anything like that, so it's like she doesn't really understand what he's so uncomfortable about, which is like really funny. So there's like, I wouldn't call this, like, there's a lot of humor in this movie, but it's not, like over the top with it. I think the humor is like actually really good. Yeah. And a lot of the humor comes from her being a little bit of like a fish out of water and, you know, just kind of like the misunderstandings that ensue like when she gets brought into like the wider world which she's never seen before. And I have to say too that like the chemistry between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine is great. Like you totally buy it. I totally bought it. That like the two of them were like just the way they kind of played off each other is like was really, really good. And I really liked too like the way they're different characters, but in a lot of ways they're kind of the same too. You know what I mean? Because he's like obviously
they're both heroic.
Yeah, he's obviously a lot more worldly and stuff, and she's kind of, because of her upbringing, is maybe, I don't want to say naive. I mean,
she's sheltered.
Yeah, she's just very sheltered. Yeah. But they both have like this inner core of like honor, and you know they always want to do the right thing and stuff like that. So you can see like how they connect with one another.
She's a warrior woman, so you know she's tough. They did capture the character pretty well. It's not the same one from the '70s TV show. That version of the character was a little bit softer. She was kind of reminded me more of the animated Wonder Woman that you might see out of like Red Sun.
Yeah.
And that was called Red Sun. Wonder Woman's kind of tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking, she's not a softie. But you know, she's a warrior. You know, so it's good. She's an Amazon.
I like too because I think there's a tendency for movies that have quote-unquote strong female leads. Especially if they're superheroes or spies or some shit like that. There's always a tendency to make them like super, super tough, but also like emotionless.
Yeah.
Almost like, well, we can't make her like too womany or people won't buy it. Yeah. And I like that they didn't do that with Wonder Woman.
And the one I'm thinking of right off the top of the head was that Captain Marvel. Remember Captain Marvel? Was that her name?
Yeah.
Man, that character was totally bland. It was just boring through the whole fucking no emotion, just
which like
bland.
I said, I think that they lean too hard into making her like a tough no nonsense. Which like I said, but you can do that. But I think like the strength of the Wonder Woman character is that she's tough. Yes, she can kick your ass. Yes, she has magical powers, but she's
a well-rounded person.
She's a well-rounded person. She has emotions. She loves people. She cares about. She believes in love and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
I thought it was cool that they did that.
Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Fucking. She actually worked to become a crewman, and you know what I mean. Could fight an alien, but she was scared through the whole thing. But she still made it.
Right.
Still challenged her. You know, and still, you know, fucking. It was a challenge for her, you know. It wasn't just a cakewalk, you know. And other people were getting killed, and she survived.
Right.
So Ripley was a normal person. She had a cat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And she went back to save the cat, which, like I said, I think people bitched about that at the time the movie came out. I was like, no, absolutely not, because I also would have gone back to save the cat.
So
Alien be damned.
I always thought Ripley was a good heroine, and I also liked Furiosa. I thought she was good too.
Yeah, that's another great example where they didn't make her just so, I mean, yeah, Furiosa was like a tough badass, but she had emotions, she had vulnerabilities.
Yeah,
it's
she
almost
was a woman. She was, she was attractive.
Right, and it just seemed like sometimes they kind of lean too hard in the other direction, where it's like, we're just going to make this like this cold-blooded kill, like, you know, almost more like they would do with the man. And I was like, I don't really think that that's really the way to go.
No,
I think it's better to like to make them, like you said, a more well-rounded person.
Yeah.
Don't just make them like this emotionless killing machine.
right.
They can be a woman and still be tough. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
I came up around killing machines. That was our job in the army, man. Fucking in 101st. And those dudes got all kinds of emotions. You know, same dude that just fucking you don't want to fucking go up against on a fucking battlefield is funny as fuck. Can tell jokes, you know, that kind of shit. They're well-rounded is more realistic.
Yeah. And it's harder to do, I guess, especially like in movie characters, and especially with bigger than life movie characters like superheroes and shit like that. You know, it's kind of a struggle to make them human, but still. And like I said, I feel like lately, like a lot of the superhero movies have leaned too hard into, and they do this for the men characters too, like leaning too hard into them being, I don't know, I guess like traumatized or troubled or whatever. Especially they've done that like with the Batman movies and stuff like that, where he's just like this towering thing of angst. And so it was really refreshing. And I think this was another thing that was kind of just in a different way was refreshing about Shazam, which was just kind of like a fun, goofy movie instead of like this dark, grim. And I like dark and grim. I'm not saying that, but I really like that they made the Wonder Woman character just like hopeful.
Yeah.
She goes out into the world and she's horrified by World War I, obviously, and she's like, oh man, this is like so much worse than she imagined, because she didn't know like all of that was going on because she grew up on this sheltered island. But even though she sees all of this devastation, she still sees enough good in humanity and still loves humanity enough to like want to save them. Like that one fucking scene that everybody talks about that's iconic of her just like running across the no man's land, like across to the other trench. You know what I mean? And like taking all the bullets, like so everybody else can go over there and like fuck them up in the other trench. It's like that was just such a great. She didn't even hesitate. She was just kind of like, you know, everybody's like, we can't do that, and she's like, I gotta, and she just did it.
Yeah, she brings some stuff with her from the island. She's got a sword and a shield, totally bulletproof. And that sword, I guess, is... what was this deal behind the sword? I mean,
the sword was supposed to be... Well, I kind of feel like... Actually, spoiler alert, but this movie came out, like, what, like 6 years ago?
Yeah.
And I feel like probably most people have seen it, but
sword was...
the God Killer was what
right.
it was supposed to be.
Now, did she lose that at the end?
Yeah, Ares broke it.
Yeah, that's right. I thought so.
Because as it turns out, spoiler alert, the sword was not the God Killer. She was the God Killer.
Right. And then she's got the lasso. She's got the bondage rope.
Yeah. That makes everybody tell the truth.
She's got the bracelets that she can stop bullets with that.
But she didn't know. She didn't know that they did that. Yeah. Because remember, like, at the beginning, you know, in the first third, when they had the big fight, like when the Germans came, like, after Chris Pine, and they started attacking the island, and, you know, a bunch of the Amazons got shot because all they had was, you know, bow and arrows, which they were kick-ass at.
Yeah.
But they still got
killed a lot of people.
They still got shot. But they killed a lot of the Germans, too. Yeah. Like, it was pretty... A lot of people got killed.
Yeah, the Germans had bolt-action rifles.
Right.
Mauser 98s.
But, I mean, had Wonder Woman... Her name's Diana, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Had Diana known that, you know, her arm things could deflect bullets, she probably would have saved her aunt.
Yeah.
Who got killed.
She had a tiara. What did the tiara do? Did that...
I don't think the tiara does anything. I think it's just there.
All right.
Because it doesn't do anything, does it?
I don't remember it doing anything.
Yeah, because that almost now that you mention that, that's crazy, because that almost reminded me of Perseus in Clash of the Titans, where he got the three things. He got, like, the sword and the shield and the helmet. Like, the helmet made him invisible, and the sword could, like, cut through marble, and then the shield, he used that for reflection, like, to kill Medusa and all that.
She also had shin guards. I think those stopped bullets, too, didn't they? Because when she had the shield, I think just her shins would stick out through the bottom.
Yeah.
I think they were all catching machine gun
I mean,
fire.
that was armor.
Yeah.
That she was wearing.
It worked.
The suit was badass. I really liked the design of it.
Yeah, it was just kind of like a pleated war skirt and like a corset and a bra, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and a tiara.
That was one of
She looked
the one of the funniest fucking things is when she first comes to London, and of course she's never been there before, and it's like, so she's what they put like a cloak on her or whatever, so she wasn't just walking out in this like shiny armor, which everybody would be like, what the fuck? It's like 1918 or whatever it is, and so they have to take her to like get her some clothes so she doesn't look all conspicuous and everything. And she is just like not having it. Like they're putting her in all these constrictive clothes like what we were wearing at the time. And she's like trying to kick. She's like, is this the kind of armor women will? How can you do anything in this? And I'm like, I feel you, sister.
She started just taking her clothes off too.
Yeah. Well,
Right
she
there.
didn't know any different. And like I said, I like that they did that like kind of funny fish out of water stuff. But it's not like they were making fun of her. It's just kind of like,
On her island, why would you have to go somewhere to dress?
right, and you as the film and watching the film like really do relate to that. It's like, you know, where she grew up, it's like you wouldn't need to wear all that bullshit.
And if you take, they took their clothes off though.
Right.
They're Greek.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't have even a concept of nudism. They just didn't wear clothes sometimes.
Right. They're just like, what's everybody so upset about?
Yeah.
It's just
And
a
they were
body.
all women
Everybody's
anyway,
got
and
one.
they were all women anyway, and it didn't matter. You know, everybody looked like, you know, everybody, and they all. And another thing is that all those women on that island looked good.
Yeah, they were all hot.
They didn't have any fat women there. They were all in great shape.
Well, because their whole thing was they trained all the time because they were sure that Ares was going to come back at some point and like try to defeat them, and that was kind of their whole thing was they were supposed to defeat Ares when he came back, so they had to be ready.
Yeah, and Ares, if you guys don't know, that's the Greek version of the god Mars, the war god. You know, the one that Rob Halford's always singing about. Yeah, with like Sinner and Exciter and shit. He's talking about Mars.
Yeah. Well, that was the later Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oracle said the scene where Diana and Steve Trevor in the boat was improvised by the actors for the most part. Well, see, now that makes it even more, because that was like a good scene. I really liked that scene a lot. Because it was just, you could tell that they kind of liked each other, but it was like super awkward, and it's just like... And he was a lot more awkward than she was, because she just didn't get what he was like so awkward about, which I thought was really funny. Oracle said the original comic Ciarra let her understand all languages.
Oh, it was she spoke all languages.
Okay. Well, see, they didn't. Okay, so they do that in the movie, like that she understands. Because she said, "Oh, we understand like all languages or lots of different languages," but they didn't specify that it was the Ciarra that did that. She could just do that because when she came there, like she talked to that one guy in like Italian and Chinese, and then like she talked to that Native American guy.
Yeah.
And
she could
then
speak in ancient languages that are dead.
yeah, and she translated the book that one of the villains had that was in like Sumerian or some shit like that. Like she knew what it said, and she's just like, "You idiots can't read this? Come on," you know what I mean? Which I thought was really funny because like, you know, it's 1918, so she walks into like the war room and the big meeting and everything. That's like, "Oh my God, there's a woman in here! Get her out of here!" You know what I mean? And it was like hilarious. She's like, "Why can't you guys read this? It says this, that, and the other thing," and it's just like, it was like so funny, but they don't want to listen to her, you know.
So we got to see 1984, Wonder Woman 1984. That's for free on
HBO Max,
HBO also. So
HBO Max has got pretty much all the DC movies.
Yeah, they got fucking Justice League and all that. I haven't seen any of them, so I'm gonna check them out. One of them is got Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in it. That's the one that she showed up in, right?
Yeah, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
Which came out a year before this. That was the first appearance of live action Wonder Woman.
And it's Gal Gadot?
Yeah, it's still her. And so that was when she first appeared. But like I said, I haven't seen it either. So I don't really know how big a part she has in that. But I'm actually kind of happy because she
has a little part in Shazam.
She does, yeah. She shows up in the second Shazam.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Fury of the Gods or whatever it's called. Because Shazam has like a dream about her or some shit like
I recommend both Shazam movies, even though the second one flopped. I thought it was good.
I liked it too.
Yep.
I liked the first one more, but the second one was actually really good too.
There's nothing wrong with the movies. It's just studio system, and The Rock kind of helped fuck it up and shit. But because with Black Adam, that wasn't originally the way it was going to go. And I think all that infighting there caused people not to want to see the movies. It's just a shame. Because I'd see a third Shazam movie.
I probably would too. I actually really like that character.
Yeah.
And well, here's the sad thing about Wonder Woman though, is this movie came out, it was a massive success. Not only critically, but it made like a fuck ton of money. And actually for a long time, it was the highest grossing movie by a female director until I think like last year, like or 2021, like another movie came out that beat it. But for a long time, this was, you know, the one it made almost $1 billion, I think, like 900 million or something like that. And massive success. All the critics loved it. Everybody loved all the you know, fanboys loved it, which is crazy because normally you wouldn't get that. And then Wonder Woman 84 came out, which we haven't seen yet, even though that might be the next thing we watch. We'll see.
We might watch it tonight, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't mind seeing it.
yeah, I mean, like I said, as long as it's not like fucking 4 hours long. Because
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, we'll see.
Tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that actually. But I heard that wasn't like I heard mixed reviews of that. But like I said, that doesn't really mean anything to me. It's like because none of those people are me, so it's like I don't know. If
I don't think it did that well at the box office.
Well, and that's the thing. They were actually supposed to make a third Wonder Woman movie, but now they're not going to do it. I guess because Wonder Woman 84 didn't do as well. Even though, which is stupid because it seemed like when this came out, like I said, everyone was just like in fucking raptures about it and like how awesome it was, and it made so much money. And then for whatever reason, like 84 came out and people just didn't like it. I was like, I can't imagine that it could be that much. I don't know. It's just one thing I like that this was set during World War I. I like that they went period piece with it, which is a risky move, but I think it paid off. I mean, I think it really, because it kind of harkened back. It almost kind of reminded me of like the older, like the Captain America movies that were like set back in World War II. Yeah. Like it was kind of like that. So it was like that kind of vibe. And like I said, it gave me that kind of that wholesome, you know, old school like Superman kind of vibe too. And which is cool because that was kind of, no one was really doing that like in superhero movies. So like I said, it was risky move, but they pulled it off.
They did a lot of kind of homages with it. Some of it kind of reminded me of like, remember, Land That Time Forgot with the German submarine shows up like that, you know what I mean? And the people that time forgot, some of that was in there, you know, almost kind of like Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Some Sinbad type stuff was in there. You know, they're on an island, you know, with Greek stuff. Yeah. And then modern man shows up. That was like some of those old Land of Time Forgot. Isn't that what that was
I think
called?
so, yeah.
With the German submarine.
So it was old like Edgar Rice Burroughs type of like novels
a little bit
and
of
stuff
that.
from back in the day.
In there. It was kind of homaging that a little bit. I thought it was a good movie. Was it a great movie? I'd have to see it again. It takes me a couple times seeing it before I...
Really, I watched and read like a wide variety of different critical... Like after I watched it, I don't usually like listen to critic shit before I see something. But after I see it, I'm kind of interested in other people's perspectives to see if people saw it the same as me, or, you know, if I was wildly off the mark or they were or whatever. So I watched it and read like a bunch of different reviews of it, and pretty much to a man, like everybody loved this shit. Usually the only criticism I saw, and I saw this more than once, was a lot of people didn't like that they didn't love the villain. Especially, well, there's kind of two villains, or actually kind of three villains. Yeah. But there's two villains who you think are like the villains, like the whole way, and then switcheroo. There's another one like towards the end. Yeah. But people thought the villains were a little bit over the top or a little bit cartoonish, which I don't know if that's the case. They were slightly over the top, like especially what was that dude's name? No, it wasn't Dusseldorf. But it was something like
the German general.
It was the German general guy, and then the poisoner lady.
I like that guy. I liked her.
Yeah, I liked the poisoner lady too, like with the ceramic face. That was like pretty cool. I liked that she was, but one, I don't think they were in it enough to. But I think that was kind of some of the things where like, well, the villains were kind of like underdeveloped, and then there was like this third act switcheroo where it's like, oh, well, those guys, they were villains. I'm not saying that, but they weren't like the big bad. You know what I mean? And I think some people thought it's like, oh, well, we would have preferred there just to be like one clear villain and like you know that she was fighting against and shit like that. But I kind of liked, and the thing about it was that, and like I said, I'm sorry if you haven't seen this because I'm kind of spoil it a little bit, but Patty Jenkins, the director, her intention was to make the movie that there wasn't an Ares. You know what I mean? Yeah. That after she stabs that guy thinking it's Ares and she's like, what the fuck? I thought the war was going to end. And then she kind of becomes disillusioned and she's like, oh shit, like he wasn't a real guy. It's just, this is what humans are like, which is, there is like a whole conversation like that she has with Steve. You know what I mean? But then she's like, so I'm making the movie. It's like going along and everything's fine. And then the producers were like, no, there has to be Ares. Like what? And she's like, we don't have time to do that now. And they're like, no, you have to do it. So she basically had to do it. Like she's like, okay, well, Ares has to show up and there has to be like a big boss fight at the end, pretty much. Yeah. But she was gonna have it that there wasn't an Ares.
Right. That makes more sense actually.
Yeah, that was her intention.
And my complaint about the villains would be Ares. When Ares, when you first see him, he's kind of in a disguise. He just looks like a normal guy of the period. But then when he shows his true self, he's in this armor and everything. And he's, doing magic, basically. God stuff.
God stuff.
The armor that he's in looks like something out of a Marvel
A bit, yeah.
It was too spiky and red and shit. No, he should have been in Greek armor. If he's fucking Ares, he should have been in.
That would have been badass, actually.
He should have been like a Greek hoplite with a sword, with a spear and a fucking shield. And because that's how Ares was basically kind of drawn. He's kind of like a Spartan or something. And that would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
That would have matched. He should have basically looked like Wonder Woman, but just a male outfit of that.
Yeah, that's, now that you mention it, I think they would have. Well, see, because the thing about it, I think DC, they kind of were like, the thing about it was they kind of were behind Marvel, right? Because Marvel like got on the whole extended universe train like way earlier, and DC seemed like they were kind of scrambling to catch up. So it's like some of the movies they put out, like the main complaint about them from like DC fans and stuff like that was that they seemed too muddled, or they were trying to cram too much into the stories because they were trying to catch up to the Marvel shit. It's like, no, we need to get to Justice League. We need to get to the big mashups, because Marvel's already done that like years ago and we're behind. So they were kind of doing that, but I feel like that's why I think that's another reason everybody was kind of happy about this movie. It's that they actually took the time to take one character, Wonder Woman, and do a whole 2.5 hour movie just about her and about her origin story. And they didn't put in, another thing that's cool, they didn't put in like a bunch of Easter eggs like to the extended universe. Yeah. The only Easter eggs that are in this, I think, are at the very beginning when there's like a truck in front of the Louvre that says Wayne Enterprises on it. And then like at the very, very end, which is like set in the modern day, like she's sending an email to Bruce Wayne or somebody. Like she's sending like somebody else in the DC. I can't remember who it was now. But that was literally it. They didn't have like fucking Captain America popping up. They didn't have like any other, well, Captain America wouldn't pop up, but you know what I mean. But they didn't have like other characters like popping in and being like, hey, I'm in this universe too. It's like, so I like that they didn't do that. They refrained. And there's no mid-credit sequence. There's no end credit sequence. We watched. So I kind of like that. Like I said, I thought it was like kind of refreshing. It does some of the stuff that superhero movies did, but it didn't do like a lot of the stuff that superhero movies do that I don't really like. Yeah, I think part of DC's problem, why DC's kind of a jumbled mess, really, and it's so hit and miss. Even though in general I enjoy DC movies better than the Marvel. I do too, slightly. It depends on what it is, but what I would have done is not really paid much attention to Marvel and just try to cut out my own identity. Yeah. Ideally. Because DC characters are not like Marvel characters. DC characters are older. They're a little more, they're more mythological in a way. Yeah, they're almost like fables. So really, the storytelling should be almost kind of semi-religious. Yeah, because they're like an American mythology. So they're not really grounded in reality. Like Aquaman, I thought was good because Aquaman was pure fantasy. We saw it. Yeah, they leaned into the fantasy element hard. And in the underground shots, I'm like, this is basically Flash Gordon underwater. Yeah. And that was the proper tone for that movie. I was like, yeah, that's it. When DC was doing its shit back in the day, they never thought about combining all these together in big mashups. Each character a lot of times was in its own universe. Well, because they all had their own team of writers and artists and stuff like that. They weren't really talking to one another. Yeah. They were just putting out books for kids to read. You know what I mean? Each one of them had its own tone. And really it's good when, like they did with Shazam. Shazam had its own tone. It's hard to believe that Shazam and Wonder Woman are in the same universe, even though they are. Yeah. But the tone of the movies were like they were in separate universes. Yeah, it was totally different. Yeah. But that's really the way they should have done it. Kind of keep it that way. Each character has its own tone. Don't worry about crossing them over. I wouldn't worry about it. Because I don't think, for the most part, the comic books never did cross over. If they did, it would be later on. Way late, Yeah. I mean, they did do that in the comics, but like we said, it's when it started out in the comic books, they didn't really give a shit about any of that extended universe jazz. They were just kind of like, yeah, this team over here works on Wonder Woman, and this team over here works on Superman, and it's like, they're just like, whatever, we're just doing a story. Yeah. And they put out the books, like I said, for kids to buy for a nickel and shit like that. They weren't worried about continuity. They weren't worried about this, that. They just wanted a good fucking story.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe, I guess because of what Marvel did, and I'm not shitting on the Marvel movies because some of them are really good, but the fact that they did this massive, massive extended universe and made all the money in the world, now everybody has to do that.
Yeah.
Like everything has to be an extended universe now. Which, like I said, and I agree. Like I think DC at the beginning should have said, yeah, you know, that's obviously a way that we can go, and they're making billions of dollars doing that. But it's like, should we, because they were so far behind? You know, they probably shouldn't have even tried. Like you said, they should have tried to carve out their own niche. Yeah. And they could have just put out, which I guess they've kind of done to an extent, but, you know, more than Marvel has, I guess. Because Marvel seems like they very much try to keep everything, you know, tight and, like, within the same parameters. But whereas DC is kind of more sloppy in a way. Like, they don't really think about it. But in a way that seems like they're trying to cram everything into the same universe, but they're not really succeeding. It kind of comes out more like that. So, and like you said, but I did like what they did with Shazam because that's like its own thing. Even though it's the same universe as Wonder Woman and Superman and all that. And Wonder Woman actually does make a cameo in the second Shazam movie, which we brought up. But it's not the same tone as it.
No.
Because this movie, I mean, it has humor in it, the Wonder Woman movie, but it's still really serious. I mean, it's set during World War One. Like, lots of people, like, a whole village gets gassed and dies, which is horrible. Like, you know what I mean? So it's serious and grim and everything like that, but it has kind of an undercurrent of hopefulness to it, if that isn't too weird to say. You know what I mean? Like, in the same way that Superman did. Like I said, so you could actually tell that the director, you know, Patty Jenkins, she was super into, like, the Richard Donner Superman, and she wanted to make something along those lines.
Yeah, well, I would think really pretty much all of DC's stuff should have been Donner-esque, really. I think that's what DC's tone was.
Yeah.
I think Donner called it. That's kind of what DC's tone was in general. And it was definitely DC's tone for Superman.
Yeah.
He knew it. Now, like I said before, he really... For me, and we're getting into Superman, but for me, fucking Chris Reeves was Superman. All right, he just
it's like I said, it's kind of hard to top that. He was, and much like Gal Gadot does in this movie, it's just kind of, she kind of embodies that role in kind of the same way that Chris Reeves did with Superman. For me,
I would say so. Chris Reeves was Superman. Superman 1 and 2 was good. Superman 2 Donner cut, even better. Superman 3. Very mundane. Poor Richard Pryor, man, because he was a huge Superman fan. He loved those two movies, and he wanted his movie to be really good, but they just didn't have the right people on it. And it just, man, I never could get through the damn movie. Superman 4 was fucking Canon Films, which is actually better than 3. It's a shit show. It is a low-budget shit show. It's fucking crazy, but there's something about it that I like. It is... And Chris Reeves doesn't phone it in, man. Chris Reeves does fucking Superman through the thing. It's fucking Nuclear Man.
I mean, mad props for him.
Yeah.
Because, well, I think the Nuclear Man thing might have been his idea.
It's fucking crazy,
so
man.
that might be why he was so invested in it.
Yeah, maybe the fucking Nuclear Man.
I think it was his idea. Or the whole anti-nuclear thing, I think was his idea. Didn't they give him a producer credit on it?
I don't know. I don't know.
They did.
I've only seen it twice, and it's just fucking, it's a shit show, but it's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun.
It's kind of fun.
I mean, it's bad, but it's fun.
Yeah. And it was a missed opportunity because it looked good for a low-budget movie. The titles, they should have skipped the titles because they couldn't afford those fucking Donner titles for the first two, the opening sequences. They could have just done a real simple opening sequence that would have been good enough. And they should have had a badass writing. You know, you could do a Nuclear Man, but it could have been done better. You know, Nuclear Man really should have been played by Chris Reeves. It should have been an evil twin clone. That's what I would have done. Somebody got a hold, like, what's his name? Lex Luthor got a hold of Superman's blood, his DNA somehow. Because didn't he get a hold of his hair?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he get his blood.
Yeah, he had his hair.
And then he uses nuclear power to make a clone of Superman. And then kind of brainwashes it. So there's two Supermans. And one of them's a mutant. That would have been a better one. That would have been a better story. And then, like, Superman tries to make peace with him, but then it doesn't work out. and fucking the nuclear man tries to become real Superman and tries to take over the Earth type of deal, thinking he's a better defender than the old Superman, and you know it's a fight to the death type of deal, brother versus brother. That's the way it should have been.
Yeah.
The dude that they had with the fucking hair and the suit and everything, it was entertaining, but it was just corny as fuck.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But you know, comic books are corny.
Not intimidating at all.
Superman comic books are kind of corny.
Not
you know?
intimidating at all. I mean, at least in modern superhero movies, the villains are actually like scary most of the time.
They've updated it a lot.
Right.
They've updated the genre a lot.
Well, they take it more seriously now than a lot of people did back.
They
in
didn't
the day.
back then.
No.
So
Absolutely
it was kind of goofy, and so they just kind of leaned into the goofiness. Kids liked it, and adults just kind of laughed at it.
Yeah.
But
although
still, 4 could have been better.
Yeah.
With the budget that they had.
But I will say, I think that because you know, I know I keep comparing like this movie to like the Richard Donner Superman, but I think the reason that I keep doing that is because Chris Reeves in the original Superman, that character, I kind of feel like under anybody else's, like in anybody else's hands, that could have gone really wrong because the Superman character, at least in his Clark Kent iteration and even in his Superman iteration, is pretty like a goody two shoes, right? Mm-hmm. And so that character, if you don't get the right character, like actor playing that can get real grating and real corny, like real fast. But I think the best thing about Chris Reeves in that role was that he's a total goody two-shoes and he's just like a Boy Scout, like they say in the movie, but you still love him. Like he's still really endearing. And I think the same thing applies in this, with Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman, is that she comes across, she's not quite as much a goody two-shoes as Superman is, but she still very much has that, believes in the power of love and peace and everything like that. I mean, she's also a warrior and can kick your ass, like I said, but she's very much like I said, like a very sheltered character, and that could go drastically wrong. Like it could be really corny or annoying or something like that. But to me, it's like it didn't come across as corny at all. Like her character does not come across as corny.
Aaron says we got her home.
Yeah, I saw that. That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
And Oracle said, this was a while back, but Oracle said, kudos to Robin Wright, by the way. She was the one that played the general, the aunt, Diana's aunt in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, she was great in her role as the general. Shit, man. Yeah. I'm just glad to see Robin Wright, man. I still remember her back from fucking The Princess Bride back in the 80s. She was fucking great in that. And she still looks fucking fantastic.
That's the girl that was in off of Battlestar Galactica?
Wait,
or the other one was... We're talking about... The girl from woman from Battlestar Galactica, the one that was on The Mandalorian. She's the female Mandalorian, remember? She was in there.
Yeah, that's right. No, I'm not talking.
She played Starbuck. Okay.
I'm talking about somebody different.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm talking about the woman that played the aunt, the one that trained Diana.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's Robin Wright.
All right.
But Oracle said, I liked how in the movie the tiara is in honor of her aunt who'd mentored her in the art of war. Yeah, that's right. That's right. She got the tiara from her aunt had it.
All right.
Oracle says, seriously, y'all need to watch the series Julia, too. The cooking stuff will appeal to Tom. Is that the one that's about Julia Child? Because, yeah, I've been wanting to see that. Oscar says, hey, Oscar, what's going on? Says, Gal Gadot is gorgeous. Yes, she is. I agree. And, yeah, she fucking killed it in this role. And honestly, we haven't watched 84 yet. We might watch it, like, after this live stream is over, because I kind of want to see it. I'm curious. But especially after seeing this one, and I really like this one a lot. And like I said, I'm not a big, huge fan of superhero movies, but this was actually like a really good one.
Yeah, I thought Gal Gadot fucking nailed it. Just the acting, her physique, how she looked. That's the character. And like I said, that's a lot like the animated versions, of the character. Just she spot on. She got a fantastic body. How old is she? 30s?
I don't know actually.
Okay.
I mean, she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't
She's
look
probably
that
about
old. She
30.
looks like she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, she trained hard for this role because she really wanted it. Well,
She put on
everybody
16
wanted
pounds,
this
you
fucking
said?
role. 17 pounds of muscle.
17 pounds and how much time?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Still, for a woman putting on 17 pounds of muscle, that's gear, man. Yeah, probably an NPP or Nandrolone. With shit, it's not like you just take that and that happens to you. You got to train to get that transformation. But no, I respect. She looks great. Yeah.
And she might have done that before the Batman versus Superman because I know that she was in.
Yeah.
I'll eventually get around to watching that one too. Like I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of over Batman movies at this point. I've seen a lot of good Batman movies, but I just feel like we don't really need any more Batman movies because
There's a lot of them.
How many fucking Batman movies does one universe need? Seriously, There's like so many. But you know, and I haven't heard a lot of good stuff about Batman versus Superman. Like some people liked it, but they thought that it was just too overstuffed. Like I said, that they was just trying to do. Yeah, they were just trying to cram too many stories in at once.
We'll watch it. I heard there's different edits of it. Some edits are better than the others.
Aren't there?
Like
always?
there's supposed to be a longer edit that makes more sense. But like I said, it's like 2 movies.
Right.
You know.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
We'll get around to that one, but
Okay.
I want to see Wonder Woman 84 first
All
because I actually really do like Gal Gadot in this role, and I like this character, and her character is more interesting to me, I guess, than Batman because, like I said, I've seen all the Batman movies, and I've seen a lot of Superman movies too, and you know I'm kind of like meh, but you don't really see Wonder Woman shit all that much, so it's kind of nice to like see something that's just all about her, and I think that's like pretty cool. So yeah, all right, so tomorrow is Monday, of course, and that means it's time for Haunting Mondays. We're going to be talking about some more ghost story shit.
Yeah.
So the one that we're going to be talking about tomorrow, we've already watched, and I've already taken notes on, and it's called, what the fuck is it called? Black Magic.
Black Magic.
So season 6, episode 3.
Yeah.
Season 6 was only 4 episodes. I didn't realize that until I was like looking at the disc. So I guess it got canceled and then it got moved like picked up later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the one we're going to be doing, Black Magic. We watched that earlier today. So hopefully you can join us for that tomorrow evening at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So until then, have a good rest of your weekend, you guys, and we will see you again tomorrow evening. Good night.